All right, what's next?
All right, so I'm Jacob Shamsian. I'm the release editor at Pipe Dream, and
There's a camera.
so you made a few Binghamton specific jokes, and I wanted
Thank
to
you.
ask you, when you visit so many different places and are touring around the country, how do you keep your act fresh from place to place? How do you like research jokes from every place you visit?
Massengill disposable douche. It's,
How does that?
are you familiar with that product?
I'm not.
Oh.
What is it?
It's a feminine hygiene product that to help a lady keep feeling fresh. That was maybe a 80s joke.
Mhm.
I love live performance, and I don't. I come from the theater, where I learn, a play as though it's scripture, and I perform it to the letter. Conversely, when I perform as a humorist, my show continues to evolve, and so something that helps that is when I am going to any specific area of the country, I'll do a little homework and see if there's anything funny to talk about. And colleges are fun. Often they have a mascot that is crying out to be mocked. Or, a sports team or some sort of administrator who's been in a scandal. Which I don't think you guys have heard about this yet, but check out the newspaper Monday.
Okay. And how'd you do your homework for Binghamton?
I asked the stage crew when I got here, what's the sports team, what's the colors, and they proffered the information about the mascot. Oh, I had a good joke about the Speedy sandwich. I was fed a Speedy sandwich, and I asked why it was called a Speedy sandwich. No one knew, but I discovered about 15 minutes later in the ladies' room why, in fact, it's called the Speedy sandwich. The locker rooms, the dressing room is in the women's staff locker room, and they drape black fabric across all the lockers. It's a very awkward feeling space until I discovered that I had 4 toilet stalls, including an enormous handicap stall at my disposal. So I did utilize all 4 of them, but I only pooped in one.
What'd you use the others for?
It's a very good question.
So I know you're shooting the last season of Parks and Rec, right?
What's your major?
I'm an English major and history.
If you know any biology majors or forensics majors, you might point them to stall number 3.
Okay. I'll see what I can find out.
What were you asking?
So you're shooting the last season of Parks and Rec, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to ask, what's that experience like to be ending a role that you're so closely associated with?
I really have no emotions about it. Breaks into puking and sobs. It's funny. I was thinking about it on the drive here, which was super beautiful. The trees are in color, and I come from Illinois, so living in California, I very much miss the seasons, particularly fall, and having trees that turn color. We don't have that in Los Angeles, where it's goddamn beautiful every day. And I was driving here, and I was thinking about my show, because I go back to work on Monday on episode 8 of the final 13, and then I started passing signs for Scranton, and so I started thinking about The Office, and my boss, Mike Schur, the main creator of my show, played Dwight Schrute's brother Mose at the Schrute farm, and he also was one of the main writers of The Office. He's one of the heroes of that show. So I texted him a picture of a Scranton sign, and we had some chuckles, and so I was thinking a lot about it, and I had to stop myself from crying at one point, because it's so easy to get nostalgic and start missing it already. There's a lot of emotion going on. It's like I suppose it's like winning a lottery, the sort where they say, okay, you've won $1 million, but we're going to give you $1 million every week for about 7 years, and so every week is pretty swell, and you get through year 5 and 6, and then you're like, oh shit. they're going to quit giving me $1 million pretty soon. And so, you know, the end being in sight is very emotional. I'm already beginning to feel bereft. At the same time, I'm incredibly grateful I got to do it at all, and I'm really thankful that we're ending it on the terms of my boss, Mike Schur. You know, he sort of made a deal with the network. I'll do less episodes if you'll let me do the ending the way I want to, and we're doing that. And so, you know, from soup to nuts, this has been the best table I've ever sat at.
Well, at the song that you sang at the end of your set, there's a line that you might saddle up little Sebastian once again. Do you think there's a chance of revisiting your role?
Oh, I thought you were asking me if I was going to have sex with little Sebastian.
Well, that was my next question.
I fucked the stuffing out of that little horse, son. No, I doubt it. I mean, nobody said anything. I feel like, you know, my wife at one time was supposed to make a spin-off of her role on Will and Grace. That was the plan. And then they spun off Joey from Friends, and it failed. And in network mentality, they were like, well, the apple failed, so the cantaloupe could never work, you know.
Right.
So they switched her idea around. And so if something was in the works, I believe we would have heard about it by now. I feel like both The Office and Parks and Rec are such a unique paradigm. They're not they're not a traditional sitcom, and so I don't expect that we'll be seeing Mr. Swanson again.
Okay. So you said in a previous interview that you once auditioned to play the role of Wolverine, and your Parks and Rec co-star Chris Pratt was, of course, in Guardians of the Galaxy as Star-Lord. So if you could play any superhero, who would it be?
That's a good question. For years, I've the only one, because I'm a little more beefy than the way most of those guys are drawn. I always thought the only guy I could play was Ben Grimm, who becomes the Thing in the Fantastic Four, because he's a rather thick fellow. In fact, Michael Chiklis played him, which some would argue is a little too thick. No, he's terrific. I would never disparage that guy. The commish, come on. I don't know. I mean, Wolverine was always my dream, but and again, like, I think Hugh Jackman is an incredibly talented performer, but I don't know. I've had enough of those movies. Like, Wolverine's been kind of ruined for me because it used to be this weird thing nobody knew about, and only really weird Dungeons and Dragons kids even knew who the fuck Wolverine was. And we'd say snicket to each other in the hallway because that's the noise that his blades make when they come out. SNIKT. And then it became this huge popular thing, and so it was no longer cool and underground anymore. There's some comics that I like. There's one called The Boys that I really love. And the main dude in that, his name is the Butcher. I wouldn't mind taking a swing at that guy, but I'm too old. Who's an old superhero? Some sort of weird cowboy sheriff boxer.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I can see you as a cowboy sheriff.
Boxer. Thank you.
So I know that in your later years in college and out of college, you were involved in a theater company, Defiant Theater, and I wanted to know and you won an award in puppetry and masks in 1998, right?
That's right.
Has your work behind the scenes informed your acting?
Well, I grew up in this great farm family, which is a community of people working together for a small monetary profit, but the riches we gleaned with our life together were multifold, you know. And the same is true of small theater companies. You don't make any money, but you live like a king. The life is so delicious. You achieve the highest highs and some very low lows, but I can't imagine feeling more alive through my youth. and so I feel like that's carried forward even now on any project that I work on. I do my best. Sometimes it's hard if I work on a movie for 2 days, but I generally do my best to learn everybody's name because I've often been on the crew. I've often been the guy driving the truck or the guy screwing the scenery together. And so that's who I gravitate to. And I say, hey, I can never lose sight of the fact that we're all making this together, you know. And that's kind of antithetical to the normal hot shot attitude where you're supposed to be, you hold yourself apart from the hoi polloi, you know, slinging the camera cable. But so I guess in that way, I've always enjoyed the theater because if you get a group of creative, passionate people together, maybe one time you're Hamlet, and maybe next time you're sewing the costumes for the ladies to do Trojan women or what have you. And I feel much more passionate about projects where I can see everybody making it together. Even that mask and puppetry award, I had a team. Like I was the head of the team, but we had 10 way better artists than me making these super cool masks and these weird little puppets. So we all shared that award.
Right. So you mentioned on stage you're working on your second book. So could you talk maybe a bit about that and what else is next for you?
Sure. My second book, we're just deciding on the title, and it's a book about a group of great Americans that have inspired me, in short. It starts with George Washington, and we get some historical figures: Ben Franklin, Teddy Roosevelt, Susan B. Anthony, Eleanor Roosevelt, Frederick Douglass, and then we get to people that are more recently passed away or still living, and some of those are like Michael Pollan, the great food writer, Wendell Berry, who I mentioned in my show, who's, to me, he's the hero. He's the Elvis Presley or Justin Bieber, depending on your age. He's the one who gets my panties in a bundle. And you know, Carol Burnett, I'm talking to, Laurie Anderson, who's a great performance artist and musician. I'm trying to land an interview with Willie Nelson. Muckrakers, people who paddle their own canoes and have achieved a great success by being really independent and really self-sufficient. And it's sort of looking at all of these people's lives and those that I can talk to, to look at our country, which is described by the founding fathers as a great American experiment. And I feel like it was a great leap forward in human rights and personal freedoms and democracy. But at the same time, it was very much established by all wealthy white dudes who were like signing the Declaration of Independence with ink that their slaves had just crushed out in the backyard. Like, so there were still a few things, and there still are, you know, like we've made all these leaps forward begrudgingly, but I'm just interested as an artist in examining how can we continue to evolve. You know, I feel like our nation has gotten really lazy in every way. We've become such a nation of consumers. Even in our politics, I feel like no matter which side of the fence you're on, we've learned to consume that. Like, I no longer know nearly enough about politics. I just turn on Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert to find out what I think, you know. And the other side is turning on Bill O'Reilly and Rush Limbaugh and Ann Coulter or whatever other cunt they like to listen to. But you know what I mean? Like, they think the same thing about me, and that's become, I think, a form of consumerism that pisses me off because it's frustrating. Because no matter who we put in the White House, we keep killing people in the Middle East. Like, you know what I mean? I feel, I just am interested in, like, how can we still keep trying to be cooler, please? Instead of just being like, hey, fuck it, I got a pickup truck and a gun, you know, and my kid plays baseball. I'd rather not rest easy on those laurels.
So I guess is your book like the format of like an essay collection on each of these people?
Kind of, yeah. Each
Uh-huh.
chapter is a person.
Uh-huh.
Yoko Ono.
She's one of them.
Yeah.
Why do you find her so great?
Oh my God. I was ignorant. My wife is a big fan of her art, and she said we were going to her opening one time in Santa Monica, and I said, "You're aware she's the evil woman who broke up the Beatles, right?" And this is 15 years ago, and she said, "I don't know that that's the case, but here, check out her art." And I had no idea of her life as an artist, which is she's an amazing, beautiful, unbelievable artist who I find really inspiring. She saw this guy who was like the closest thing to a messiah in our millennia, gunned down in front of her on the sidewalk at their building, the Dakota, didn't move, still lives there, still just never batted an eyelash, just kept on promoting her ideas and his ideas to try and promote world peace and loving one another. And I find her incredibly heroic. And based on my own ignorance, I feel it's incumbent upon me to hopefully some dipshit Ron Swanson fans will read my book and be like, "Oh man, I didn't know she was actually cool." So there's a lot of that going on. I think I'm doing a reality show about making stuff.
Cool.
Like a Handmade in America kind of old-fashioned craft show.
In your wood shop?
Some in my wood shop. I don't want it to take over my wood shop because I have woodworkers performing woodworking there. But my wood shop will be represented, but it'll also travel to different shops around the country and visit people who make things in an old-fashioned way.
Very cool.
I'm always doing films. I have some film work. My wife and I have a new touring show called Summer of '69, no apostrophe, that we're gonna tour a lot next year.
What's that tour gonna be about?
Well, we did it once already, and then this Broadway show took her away for about 5 months from touring. But it's kind of an old-fashioned variety, husband and wife, like Sonny and Cher kind of show, with songs, and it's very funny and very ribald, as the title would have you believe. And we end with a big dance number.
Cool. So those are all of my prepared questions. I have a few speed round questions to ask. Is that all right?
Okay.
Okay. You have to answer immediately after I ask the question. Cool.
So you say.
NSYNC or Backstreet Boys?
No, thank you.
If you could be a piece of furniture, what type of furniture would you be?
Stool.
Last book you read?
10th of December by George Saunders. Please read it. It's fucking amazing. He lives like 90 minutes from here.
Cats or dogs?
Yes.
Name a celebrity.
Megan Mullally.
Favorite article of clothing?
Boots.
Now I have a few word associations.
Okay.
Just tell me what you think comes to mind when I say these words.
Okay. I don't. I awarded any points for my speed round.
No.
Let's say 17.
17.
Thank
fine.
you.
And the next.
This is word association?
Yeah, these word associations also total 20 as the last round.
Thank you.
Okay. So here, Binghamton.
Baxter.
Fatuous.
Fatuous? My sister.
Wood.
Oak.
Mollycoddle.
Wine.
Canoeing.
Bliss.
iPhone.
Bullshit.
Elevator.
Bullshit.
Your total score is 37.
By God, thank you.
That's all I have.
Elevators were invented by the Otis Corporation to keep us from using stairs.
I think I read that once.
They're the biggest contributor to diabetes in the country. I'm bringing the Otis elevator company down.
I'm afraid of elevators, so I tend not to go on them.
Right now I live on the 58th floor, so I'm going to cut that bit off right there. I like the elevator.
Thanks so much for taking the time to speak to us. I really appreciate it, and
My pleasure.
I enjoyed your set, and I hope the rest of your tour goes as well as it did here.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, America. It bears mentioning that the show I was asked to perform, you can bring it back in now. I'll linger.